of sharing. Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia. Welcome back to Drian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with the Grace Show at the Daily ASEAN Dailies. We deliver news from Southeast Asia. So, let's start with the news about the refugees and also a few of the Islamists in Germany. That there is a big worry that Islamists in Germany, on the pretext of the offering the humanitarian help, probably they could try take advantage of this migrant situation to convert and also recruit these people who have been seeking asylum so far. And this could be very serious matter if you think about further in the future, because these people, they need something to be provided for their shelters, food, all these necessities. And apparently the head of Germany's domestic intelligence services warned that the radical Islamists could seek to recruit these young refugees coming to this country. So this is a big worrisome. Not only that, there should be a sort of attention, also the policies or even the prevention now in Germany, especially to prevent all these things happening to the young refugees. And of course, Ma San, who is the president of BFV Domestic Intelligence Agency, mentioned that our attention is particularly focused on the unaccompanied young refugees who could be easy prey for Islamists. And then, of course, these remarks came just hours after police raided 8 properties in Berlin, and also including the Most Association that they suspect were being used by Islamists supporting fighting in Syria. And of course, there have been a lot of comments flooded in, also feedback as well. And this will also feed into divisive debate in Germany about how the country should deal with this influx of hundreds of thousands of migrants. Well, so far, Germany has been welcoming and also gladly accepting all these refugees. Now, on top of that, I wouldn't say it is just a huge problem, but with the idea and also the plan of ISIS of seeking these young refugees to be recruited, it could be it could lead to another issues after all. And of course, Mahatsan said that the number of ultra-conservative Salafist Muslims in Germany has apparently risen to 7,900, well, compared to 7,500 in June this year. And about 740 Islamists from Germany, of which 1/5 are women, and also have traveled to Syria as well as Iraq. And in addition to that, 1/3 of those are now back in Germany, while 120 have died already. So there was no proof apparently yet that Islamists had infiltrated the refugees here at the moment. So we'll update you on these refugees, also their crisis in Germany and so around the Europe as well. Moving on, let's come to Southeast Asia, where Joko Widodo is planning to meet Obama next month. And President Barack Obama will meet with the Indonesian President Joko Widodo at the White House on October 26th. And this is apparently his first visit to the USA since becoming a president of Indonesia. And the two presidents will discuss a lot of things, especially focus on the defense, trade and investment, climate change, and energy and maritime issues, of course. And those are the issues that Indonesia have been sort of worrying as well as the protecting so far. So that's it for our update news from Drian ASEAN. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll deliver news on the political side of of Southeast Asia. So stay tuned. ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia. Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing your with Grace at ASEAN Dailies, where deliver news from Southeast Asia. And now we are focusing on the political side of Southeast Asia, where we can stay in Indonesia, where there are protesters in Kalimantan that they are decrying Indonesians' inaction against all these forest fires which we have been suffering from. It's called haze. And these protests are taking place in the Palangka Raya, which is the central Kalimantan. And all the residents and activists rally against Indonesian government's inaction tackling these ongoing regional forest fires. It's not only the national problem in Indonesia, but it has become the regional problems overall, including Malaysia and Singapore especially. So it has all this affected the areas and also the health issues. And according to them, the government is not taking serious measures to solve these fires. As one of the activists, and also Central Kalimantan is in the state of emergency, and the people are suffering from the respiratory illnesses, as well as they want disaster management teams to be prepared in advance in order to safeguard people's health, and they want all these sanctions against those who burn the land for profit. And of course, when we think about the profit, it doesn't only come from Indonesia, but then there are also companies in Malaysia as well as Singapore who are going after the profit of just the mass burning the land, because apparently that's one of the easiest method to just cut down all this forest. And that has caused a lot of significant sort of impact on the countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, as well as Singapore. And Southeast Asia, when you think about it, it has for years suffered from the annual bout of haze caused by slash and burn practices in Indonesia, island of Sumatra, and the Kalimantan as well. So when you check, there are a few footages in YouTube how people in Indonesia have been protesting against the government action. And also these protesters outside the governor's offices include students as well as activists from around the 10 organizations, including Save Our Borneo, Walhi, and Indonesian Environmental Advocacy Group. And many braved these acrid and stinging conditions, and also the PSI level apparently in the region called Palangka Raya, it hit 1,955 at 2 p.m. and it was just yesterday, which is very, very serious. And the people can't even go out, and not advised even to go out because of the really thick and also unhealthy the substances in the air. So those are the issues that needs to be addressed in order to come up with a better solution for haze, not only in Indonesia, but when you think about Malaysia and Singapore as well. What have the government been doing towards the getting rid of the haze problem? So hope that Indonesia does take some actions towards this serious problem, and this is becoming annual problem already. So, and especially if you think about the people there, those people are not in the standard of the living in a high living style. These people are just generally all poor. So there aren't much that people can do apart from wearing masks and ask the students to stay at their home. So these are just the basic stuff that they can do, but all the clinics and the doctors, they have to be updated, and also the government on top of that need to take an action towards this. Let's move on to Malaysia, where we are talking about the corruption here. Apparently, the U.S. federal grand jury is examining the allegations of corruption involving, of course, the Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak and individuals close to him. And this was reported by New York Times, and they have quoted anonymous sources apparently. So they are examining this corruption in Malaysia, and then the inquiry apparently run by the unit of the Justice Department that probed international corruption is centered on U.S. properties bought in recent years by Najib's stepson and also properties relating to the close family friends. Well, it is also examining the allegations that about 681 US dollars millions was deposited into Najib's personal bank account. Those are all the facts and news that public in Malaysia have been hearing about. But, of course, the calls for the comments from Najib's office went, of course, unanswered. And this alleged 681 million dollars deposit had surfaced in July in a report by the Wall Street Journal, which said it had uncovered by Malaysian investigators probing allegation of the graft and also mismanagement of sovereign wealth fund, which is 1MDB, one Malaysian developer heard. And also, not only that, quite a few other news agencies also have sort of revealed and also to tell the what they have found. But some of them are shut down, and some of them were strictly restricted by the government, and that is another issue there. Of course, Najib faces pressure at home to step down from his post over the 1MDB scandal, and also 1MDB is seeking to cut its $11 billion debt by selling power and property assets. Well, outside of Malaysia, from other countries' perspectives towards the Malaysia, this current situation looks quite messy. But at the same time, where is Malaysia standing at this moment? And especially Prime Minister Najib Razak, where is his truth answer for all of us regarding this matter? Well, continuing, let's travel to China. And apparently, the Australian new Prime Minister has questioned the China's their own strategy and the dispute to the South China Sea. That was in the broadcast interview apparently. And China's recent land reclamation activity in the area has of course angered the neighbors with the competing claims and ratcheted up the tensions in the region. And apparently China is Australia's the biggest trading partner. And Mr. Turnbull, who was sworn in as a Prime Minister last week, has yet to outline how he will balance this Australia's long-standing diplomatic relationship and also allegiance to the US against its economic ties to China. So according to him, he said China's actions, including this construction of military bases on reclaimed atolls, could draw our neighbors closer to the United States. And his only view and the government's view is that at the current situation is that China would be better advised and its own interest, frankly, and also not to be pushing the envelope there, and that is why there has been resistance against these activities. And when you think about all these disputed islands in the South China Sea, is of course the sovereignty of its ocean areas, and also alongside the fully fledged island, there are also dozens of rocky outcrops, atolls, sandbanks, and reefs. So although largely uninhabited, the paracels and then spotless may have reserves of the natural resources around them, and the sea is also a major shipping route and also home to fishing grounds that supply the livelihoods of people across the region. And that's the main reason why China is working so hard to mark the territory in South China Sea. So we still need to see how Australia will react between the China and Australia, as well as their relationship between Australia and the USA in the bigger picture. And let's move on to next news, which is about China calls for border stability in Myanmar ahead of the election. Of course, Myanmar is expecting the elections in November, and China's defense minister has urged Myanmar to maintain stability on their common border as the Southeast Asian country prepares for what Beijing hopes will be successful election in November. And since taking power in March 2011, Myanmar's reformist government has sought to decrease the heavy dependence on China that grew when Myanmar was the pariah state under military rule, of course. And the ties between Myanmar and China's sort of soured this year over fighting between Myanmar's military and this ethnic Chinese Myanmar National Democratic Alliance army along the part of the shared border as well. So Beijing has watched as the United States lifted some sanction and engaged with the semi-civilian government. Well, although China has also very keen to engage other political parties such as the NLD. So China's defense minister Chang Wa-kwan told Myanmar's deputy commander-in-chief General So Win, who was visiting Beijing for military talks, which was just a few days ago, that China and Myanmar should jointly maintain the stability in the border area. So we'll see how the relationship between these countries will develop and build up afterwards regarding this election as well as the issues that has been going around. So that's it for the political side of Southeast Asia. Stay tuned for the next segment, which will be focusing on the economic side of Southeast Asia. ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia. Welcome back to Driana ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Grace.
Hi, this is Gowri.
So let's continue our news commentary on the economic side of Southeast Asia. So the first one, we'll talk about Facebook. So what's been happening is apparently this social media, Facebook, woos these local SMEs with a marketing bootcamp apparently.
And the internet giant Facebook is apparently boosting their efforts to attract all small and medium enterprises in Indonesia, especially to rope them into the social networking platform. And it's also their way of tapping into the nation's increasingly tech-savvy population. Mm-hmm. And you know, Indonesia is one of the heavily populated countries the entire world, not just in Southeast Asia. And I think they also have one of the highest number of Facebook users. Yep. And Facebook sees a lot of potential in there, and that's why they're coming up with all these programs to attract Indonesians to join in the social networking world.
This is very interesting because Facebook has never started on the business perspectives, of course, from Mark Zuckerberg. Mm-hmm. But then now it has become one of the biggest business around the world. And now they are looking at Indonesia. Like you mentioned about the population is very huge. And perhaps the reason why they have come to Indonesia is also because Indonesia, not only because of the population, but also when you think about the economic status, is a very, very important market to Facebook. And also, this is according to Andy Huang, who is the head of the small and medium business for Asia Pacific at Facebook. So they are also even more privileged to be able to provide this platform that business can use to grow themselves, and also in a place like Indonesia, and also being able to contribute to the economic of Indonesia is something that we want to do and something that is important to us. Of course, to Facebook, having Indonesia as a platform is a very significant sort of the marks they will make in the near future. But on the Indonesia side, they will also have a lot of benefits from Facebook, and they will also spread throughout the Southeast Asia.
Right. I think also when it comes to Indonesia, there it's a rise in the middle class society as well. People are, although the economy is not doing so well at the moment, people are actually starting to spend more, especially the middle class. And because of that, a lot of them are also resorting to becoming entrepreneurs, starting up small and medium businesses. And like you said, of course, Facebook was not set up in the first place for this reason, but it has evolved in so many ways. It's not just a way to keep in touch. I think most companies, or all companies these days, have a Facebook account where you can actually go leave a comment or leave a feedback or complain if you're not happy about them. And because of that, all these businesses are also quite scared to make any mistake now, because once it's on Facebook, it goes viral.
That's
and there's
very
no
true.
saving your business anymore.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of ways that Facebook can also help these Indonesians, and it's a great step that they are conducting these workshops and boot camps in order to lure more young people to go in to get into this and become entrepreneurs and start up their own businesses.
That is very true, because more than 45 million businesses around the world are on Facebook for sure. And then when you think about the population of Indonesia, just imagine the number of people using Facebook, and then imagine they do businesses on Facebook. That's another part that we can talk about. And that there is no depth to the social media in Indonesia. And now Facebook isn't just the biggest social media, but also it has become the platform for social commerce. So this is sort of that has been innovated and then developed from just being social media itself. And like you mentioned about all those entrepreneurs, they heavily make use of this social media as a part of their platforms.
And so far, they have reached out to 700 local business owners following the updates to its business pages earlier this month. And they're expecting to reach out to more people as well to get them into the world of entrepreneurship, and also to teach them marketing tips and how to use Facebook to enhance your marketing techniques.
And with this, for sure, Facebook will gain more popularity from the population in Indonesia. Well, let's move on to the next news about ADB. Apparently, it revises down the regional growth as China and India, the growth is becoming very slow. So there is a economic weaker growth in China this year, and also it is also heavily affected by the yuan, the currency there, and it is also expected to cause another slowdown in the rest of Asia. And this, of course, ADB, Asian Development Bank, said as it became the last major body to revise down its forecast for the world's number 2 economic. And apparently that is also warned the central banks to prepare for the expected Federal Reserve interest rate rise, with many nations already seeing these huge capital outflows as dealers look for safer U.S. investments.
And the Asian Development Bank also predicted that the growth rate would actually be the slowest since 1990 when it comes to not only China actually, but in this case also India.
Right.
That they are including in their prophecy. And the ADB is also saying that it will be the slowest since the Tiananmen Square crackdown that led to global sanctions against Beijing. Of course, that was a massive protest that happened back in China. And is also below China's official target of the year, which is supposed to be about 7%. And developing Asia is expected to continue to be the largest contributing region to global growth despite the moderation. Of course, if we look at Asia itself, it is an emerging continent, and it has a very huge emerging market as well, even speaking of Southeast Asia. And whatever that happens in China definitely affects us, especially in ASEAN, because they are one of our biggest trading partners. And although it's tipping China, I think that they are being quite positive that it can still somewhat drive Asia forward, but we still have to be careful because the growth rate is not really that good in China and India at the moment.
Yes, and in fact it's just a slowing down. And when you think about all these monetary policies, it is necessary to perhaps we have to reconsider, because when you just think about the currency now, the currency in USA, the US dollar is just rising, but then all the other currencies, including Southeast Asian currencies, is just dropping really dramatically, and that worries all those populations in Southeast Asia for sure. So This tightening of the U.S. monetary policy will likely lead the fight of the capital from developing nations as traders move into U.S. in search for the better returns for sure. So there are a lot of people now even converting the currency into U.S. dollars just to save. And of course, the world markets were rocked after the Fed on Thursday held off the announcing a rise, with the Yellen and citing the threats to the U.S. economy caused by China economy as a key reason for this decision. So I will continue our news on the social culture part after this short break. So stay tuned. ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia. Welcome back to Drian ASEAN. You're with Grace.
And you're with Gowri.
At ASEAN Dailies, we deliver news from Southeast Asia. So Gowri, apparently one of the children's favorite sort of what should we call it?
I don't think it's only children's favorite.
Is it?
I think it's everybody's favorite.
Do you still love it?
I do.
But then apparently this Nutella, the brand itself, their lovers hijacked the branding campaign with very funny labels apparently.
And this actually happened in Australia, where an Australian marketing campaign that lets people personalize their jars of chocolate spread has not really gone quite to plan, because participants started designing labels and posting them online that read diabetes and poop.
No way.
Instead of like putting their name, like I think like what Coca-Cola did, with different names on the label.
Exactly. And then apparently it's called the Make Me Yours promotion for Nutella, which began last week, asked Australians to avoid creating labels which were obscene, offensive, inappropriate, and or unsuitable for minors. But they came up with all these labels otherwise.
Right, and I guess they did not really consider the fact that Australians have a pretty strong sense of humor, and they will not really go for safe,
decent
labels, I think. And the promotion has so far seen a lot of images on social media, and ranging from other products as well, like the Vegemite, to those which note the spread's potential to be harmful with nut allergies, as well as allergen. And there's also one that reads Fat Kids and Regret. So I think this whole marketing trick sort of backfired on Nutella.
Yes, it's another failure in a marketing strategy, I guess. And of course, this needs to be considered very carefully when you really want to have a marketing campaign for very famous Nutella. Because if I'm not mistaken, back to those days, McDonald's also wanted to have their own campaign in America, especially how do people feel about the McDonald's, and they wanted to spread positive stories. However, it turned out to be negative and then backfired totally. So this is just another case done by Nutella in Australia this time.
I think that they should also take into consideration the country or the location where it's taking place, because like in this case, we know Australians do not really filter their sense of humor.
Yeah.
They have a very sharp humor, very witty, and it's hard to stop people like that from coming up with something that they want, and it's not something that they can filter or tone it down and make it all sound nice. So probably the demographics is also very important before you introduce the marketing technique.
Very true. I'm sure, Gowri, you know more than I do here, especially when you hear about all those Australian jokes and also stand-up comedies there. I mean, the way how they deliver their message is also pretty different from other countries, isn't it? Yeah. So, we'll update on the Nutella news and see how people are still reacting to this campaign. Well, moving on to the next news, which is about animals. And all those animal lovers, they come together to celebrate World Rhino Day. And this is one of the species that's about to extinct very soon, and of course it's really important to remember. And on the September 22nd, the world celebrates the all 5 species rhinoceros, including the black, white, greater one-horned, and Sumatra, and also Javan rhino.
And the rhinoceros species is, of course, native to Africa, Asia, and has been actually roaming around the earth ever since the cavemen were around, and that's quite some time back. And today's, however, the rhinos are actually quite a vulnerable species, and they mostly because of habitat loss, a lot of deforestation that's been happening.
Yeah, that's very true.
A lot of natural disasters, and of course, the worst reason is poaching, where a lot of people want to get the rhino's tusk because it's used in some magical medication to cure a lot of illness, and that has caused the rhinos to become an endangered species now.
And this is something that we need to remember, not only this specific species, but the other species, even tigers. Certain tiger species are at the level of extinction, and this is very serious because once a few species are disappearing, that will disturb the whole ecosystem, and that will affect the human beings eventually. So it is very important to remember to save and protect them because we need them and we need to be able to appreciate them. So, today, I mean, it was just yesterday, Happy World Rhino Day, 22nd of September. But then until today or tomorrow, let's think about all these animals and see how they have been providing, their benefits to us, not just taking benefits on human being side only.
And if you want to learn more about how you can contribute to this, to raising awareness and whatnot, you can always log on to worldrhinoday.org to see how you can get involved.
Sure. So that's it for our news commentary today. Look for us on our social media channels such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We do have also website, DurianASEAN.com.
And if you want to listen to us on the go, just download our very own Durian ASEAN app. It works for any smartphone.
So we'll be back for the next session on the Durian Heat. Stay tuned.